I think I only really know about it through them being sold in the back of magazines as sets. And then I got to find out about what it was and what it actually meant. And I thought it was a very idealistic post-war initiative to do, to bring art into schools all over Britain by some of the best artists of that era. So I was happy when you approached me to do something similar.
Brenda Rawnsley brought to fruition the school prints idea in 1945 and 1946. It was not her conception, it was her husband's conception, who had unfortunately died in the war, but in 1935 he had come up with School Prints Limited, but never had brought it to fruition. And the idea was to get contemporary art into schools. And Brenda Rawnsley got together with a committee to select art. So they went to artists throughout Britain and asked them to make art for school prints. And then they selected.
Well, I've always felt that contemporary art, actually most contemporary art, is much better suited for children than it is for adults. Because I think a lot of adults bring so many preconceived ideas and fears about art and not understanding it, whereas children react to art in a much more visceral, immediate way.
So the project started with us selecting some art ambassadors in Year 9. So our art ambassadors have been working with artists from the Hepworth to explore the prints that have been commissioned and really engaging them so they've got a real strong understanding of the artworks. And then further down the line, those students will go out into our feeder primary schools and work with Year 5 students to engage those young people with the artworks, and then the artworks will be installed at school as well, so they're accessible to all of our students and our staff.
The broccoli image, it wasn't something normally you'd see. It's the same thing, but in different variations of colours. In my opinion, matched the word vibrant.
The first series was all British artists. The most avant-garde, perhaps, of those British artists was John Tunnard. Here's John Tunnard's picture called Holiday, and this is really modern art in England at its cutting edge. Quite jolly, really, but also quite difficult for the teachers to get their brains into at that time. Britain had just been through the Second World War, 6 years of, at the worst, hell, and at the best, quite dreary, really. And one thing about war is that colour tends to go out of art. Now, what happened was that the printers who had printed the first edition had invented a new way of lithographic printing. They invented a form of plastic sheets, 4 plastic sheets, which you could draw on. And what's more, you didn't have to use the traditional tools. You could use colours with all sorts of different forms.
It's had a really positive impact because it's really opened our students' eyes to what art can be. Sometimes they come to us with quite a narrow perception of what art is, or whether they think they're good at art or not, and often that's based around pencil drawing and that kind of thing, and that's obviously really important as well. But it's really helped our students to think about different types of art, and that art can be challenging sometimes, it can be confusing, and it can be lots of different things.
So, I mean, what I've done is almost like an illustration from a book. It's a sort of funny thing, really. It's meant to make people smile, or kids smile, really. You know, art education hasn't had the best time in the last years. Art should be in schools, and the best art and best artists should have a work scene in schools. It totally makes sense, really. I just hope that the work finds its way into lots of schools.